Hello, everybody. My name is Arun Gupta. I am the Vice President and General Manager at Open Ecosystem Team at Intel. Today, I'm very excited to have one of my longtime friends, actually, Salman, on the call. Hey, Salman.
Hey, Arun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very happy to have you here. Today, what we are talking about is LLMs. The way world has changed since we launched ChatGPT, frankly, what, year and a half ago. LLMs are kind of springing up anywhere and everywhere. A lot of the LLM applications are B2B, but still a significant majority are B2C in terms of how customers, people like me, are using the LLM. So that's where this impetus is important, that how are the LLMs, the prompt generation that is happening over there, is giving you the feedback, how the human feedback is incorporated around it. And I'm very proud to be a Katanemo advisor. And so I would let Salman kind of give an introduction of what Katanemo, the company, is and what are we talking about today.
Hey, thanks for that. So, I agree with the sentiment, Arun, and thanks for having me here. So, my name is Salman. I am the founder and CEO of Katanemo. We describe ourselves as operating at the intersection of open source research and infrastructure development for Gen AI. So, how do we take in the new science and make infrastructure easy so that people can build more personalized, faster applications? It's an open source project. Katanemo builds open source technologies. And one of the things that we have been seeing with our customers is this desire to understand how end users are satisfied with large language models. There's this a large sort of vast sea of benchmarks that large language models get measured on. But is that truly the right measure, or is that a proxy measure to understand what end users feel? Because there's a lot to be gained in understanding that user experience and user experience satisfaction, because you can create new experiences in terms of workflows, UX design, balance your cost with quality, be efficient in your deployments. And so Katanemo is leading the open science research on that front. And then we have our infrastructure development that we take in some of that data and make the running and creation of personalized, fast experiences for developers easy. That's who we are, and sort of echoing your sentiment on what we need to do for end users here.
That's key, because at the end of the day, these LLMs, if I'm going to use it, it doesn't matter what's happening behind the scene. Am I really bringing that human element into it? And that's what I'm excited for, looking forward to what you're saying.
Yeah, so I can describe this in a couple of ways. So let me put up a smaller presentation. Let me know. So I think one of the things that we were seeing a lot with our customers and people that we interact with, there's a lot of comparison shopping happening with large language models. This is a screenshot of Hugging Face, which is a steward of open source models and creates an open source LLM leaderboard. But if you go and scour this requires a great depth of knowledge of these benchmarks, what they mean, how should they think about, a developer should think about them. And perhaps actually you need a lot more sophisticated understanding to really make an assessment of which one is good for you. And the challenge with that is it sort of looks like, to me, to put an analogy to this, sort of a comparison shopping experience for like TVs. And when you go to these TV stores where you're looking at all these TVs and they have all these specs, I think those are important things to have a good understanding how the TV would actually perform. But what really matters is what happens when the TV comes home? How does it feel? How does it look? Does it fit into the entire user experience? And ultimately, the quality of the TV experience and the longevity of the TV matters when it comes home, not necessarily in a comparison shopping matrix, if you would.
So I think the comparison shopping matrix help you to an extent that, yes, you understand what the basic prerequisites are, but ultimately this is the user experience that you crave for. That was the end user behavior experience. That's the customer driven approach.
That's right. So one of the things that we're doing in Katanemo is leading an open source study, a research study, which tries to understand how do we measure human satisfaction with large language models. Not benchmark, not just benchmark performance. The benchmark performance is important, is judged by human experts, but end users. And really look at 2 points on a quality curve where we can understand for a particular task, let's say it's an information extraction task or a summarization task, what are the 2 points on a quality curve which are super important to users, which is after a certain point, can users really tell the difference between the most impressive, largest models versus something that actually performs really well and the users really can't tell any marginal improvement, or a point below which the users will be like, I just think this is a bad response. And humans will start rejecting the interaction experience from an LLM-backed app. So we thought this would be an interesting way to sort of continue in the spirit of our open source development here at Katanemo and do an open source study on the satisfaction of humans with large language model responses and their respective quality levels as benchmarked.
And so you're really trying to define sort of the Goldilocks range over there, not too hot, not too cold. Anything below this doesn't matter, anything above this doesn't matter, which is the noise. How do I get the right balance in there?
Right. So think about this from the early days of the internet. You and I have existed long enough to experience the internet. We, of course, expose our age this way. But nonetheless, imagine we're back in the early days of Amazon. Of course, you and I have worked at Amazon AWS in particular. But if Amazon websites loaded at 5 seconds, every single page, I don't think there will be an Amazon. Right? And Amazon loading its page from 2 seconds or 1.9 seconds, which I think is the target that they measure, I believe, but going that to 1.5 seconds, I'm not sure that's going to have a marginal improvement in the human satisfaction. So I think our study is akin to figuring out those new levels of satisfaction, especially as the studies in the earlier days of the revolution of the internet happened, and how do we apply that to large language models and try to assess the differences and perhaps the non-linearity in terms of, hey, you go from a really poor quality response to a slightly better one, but the users see a big difference.
Right. There's a lot of work, studies, etc., have been done. So we're not really trying to reinvent the wheel, but just applying those studies to the LLM world, which is more prominent these days.
Exactly, right? Which is, how do we evaluate in this new world, what does good mean? What does great mean? What does poor mean? Like latency was a metric on websites. And part of that will be here, but there's a whole bunch of other nuances in large language models because they're generative.
So what are we doing about it?
What are we doing about it? So we talked about that this is a open source study. So it's in a web app that people can go to on a single link. And all they have to really do, and what they're presented with, is a random prompt. And these are prompts selected from the most common questions people do ask large language models in Google today. And they have to simply look at the prompt, read the response from a randomly selected AI model. Of course, we are randomly doing a whole bunch of models with different sizes and qualities, and simply rate it on a scale of 1 through 5.
So let me kind of back up from here. People go to this web page, they're shown a randomly selected prompt. And for that, you have a bunch of models in the back end. One of the models generate the response to that prompt. You want people to read the prompt, read the response, and rate it from scale of 1 to 5 using those stars that you showed at the bottom.
That's right. As simple as that. Yeah, they can say rate a response from bad all the way to great, depending on where this was. I'm going to rate this okay. And all they have to do is this single submission. They can keep on going with us, keep on giving us more interesting feedback, so we can sort of aggregate all that across multiple users, across a single user. But the idea really is as simple as read a prompt, read a response, rate it, and move. And 30 seconds, maximum a minute, depending on the prompt that we randomly chose. A lot of this human study will come into sort of enabling everybody to learn from this open study, because of course the data will be made available on GitHub, and all the insights will be made available too, to better understand how we should tailor the application experience for users, especially for generative AI workloads.
Got it.
And of course, you could,
Yeah. So how did you pick up the prompts? How do you know which models? Where is that information available?
So all of it is on GitHub. The Global LLM Challenge is part of the Open LLM Initiative thing. And the idea behind this open source repository is we talk about the high-level setup, how we went about the training, sort of the learning objective, study objective, what were our definitions of quality and quality response curve, the 2 points on the curve we talked about. We talked about model selection theory. How do we pick the sort of the diversity of models in terms of size and quality representation, and the task and task complexity? All of that is documented in terms of and of course, at Katanemo, we have applied scientists who have reviewed the study to make sure that it's complete and precise for the goal and objective we have here. So it's vetted by actual PhDs, and essentially all of the data then is present under the appropriate folders within this open source study under data. So all of that is available. It's an Apache licensed project. And of course, we'll make updates as we go along and keep people posted. But it's like any other GitHub project, with the exception that we're hosting the app, obviously, to get the data, and then we'll share the data and insights back out in this data folder. And if you run additional variations, all of that will be communicated through the open source project.
Okay, so if you go to the bottom of this page,
yeah.
So what I see there is, in the model selection, you're talking about a few open source LLMs, and then some proprietary LLMs that are API-based approach.
That's right. So we have we wanted to have model diversity. So model diversity is represented by open source models. So there's license diversity here. There is also size diversity in terms of choosing a model that was actually only a 500 million parameter model, but was best in class in that size, all the way up to GPT-4o. Because the essence of the study is not necessarily compare models with each other. The essence of the study is understanding across over a response quality curve. Imagine presuming the scaling laws of large language models is that the bigger the model, the better the quality. And the question is, at what point does additional quality doesn't matter to users? Or what point below the quality degrades so far that users will reject the entire interaction experience? So this all of is documented. And we may run a different version of it in the future, which I may experiment with different models, but this is our set. We've chosen fronts from Qwen and Google, Microsoft, Llama, Meta, and the likes of OpenAI and Anthropic.
So for now, you have a pre-selected set of models, but potentially in the future, users can submit and open an issue that, hey, I would like this model to be included because this model is critical to me.
Hey, come build with us, right? That's the whole idea behind open source community development. And the reason you come to this challenge as being part of the open sort of community around a large language model development is that you're helping the community make better decisions and better choices. So, if you're a user, if you're an end user, if you're a productivity worker, if you're a machine learning scientist, if you're a developer, if you really want to contribute truly to the human experience with large language models, and do it with the open source spirit of it, we encourage you to click on that link, go to the website, which hosts this experiment, a simple read the prompt, read the response, rate it, and we will thank you for all the contributions that you're doing. And as I said, if you subscribe, you get the first dibs on getting the data, but you can always get the data at a sort of ad hoc basis on GitHub when we publish it in hopefully 30 to 40 days as we scrub some of the data.
And so if I am a user, and I believe I saw there were some 30 prompts that people have to read and their responses as well. So it would take me, maybe 2 coffees, over a couple of days that I could finish off this entire exercise.
You absolutely can. So the combination, there are 30 prompts and then randomly selected across 11 to 12 models. So you have about 300-ish total, what we call pairs. And if one takes less than 30 seconds, you can do the math. It should be really quick for you to go to 30 really quickly. It's less a couple of coffees. And if you want to really, really contribute, you can go through the whole set. But we randomly select it to keep things fresh and interesting and have uniform distribution so that we get no imbalance in terms of one model represented more or one task represented more.
Got it. So, coffee, lunch, break, you want to freshen up yourself, you want to entertain yourself. Lots of different ways by which developers can read this prompt and rate them and contribute to sort of the human feedback of the prompt, and the response generation for the prompts.
Yeah, human feedback to what matters to me. I like it. This is good. Versus us only looking at, I think, what I like to describe as a little bit proxy metrics, which is a benchmark created by human experts. We all are end users, right? We're not necessarily going to be experts in large language models, not everyone. We just have to give enough signal to the developer community on what they should do to make the user experience better. So this would help with that.
Right. So eventually all these results will be available on GitHub. But the reason you may want to do this is because, as you showed in the beginning, put your email address, you have the first dibs on the results, and that allows you to kind of evaluate it and apply it in your own setting if you need to.
Exactly. Like the faster you get the results, the more quicker you can act on them. That's why the email is there, because that's the first publish it will have, perhaps both the raw set and the insights, and then we'll do an internal quality pass on that and eventually push it on GitHub. But that's like if you want to be even closer to the study, sign up, and we'll keep you posted just about the study, obviously, right? We just want to make sure that all the open source stuff we're doing is with the community.
That's super. That's fantastic, actually. Any last call to action for people, on the outside of, go try this challenge and give feedback?
I think that's it. I think that's it. We keep it simple to this post. It's all about the open source community. It really is all open data, and let's make the future of these application designs be informed about human-centric design, right? I think that's the spirit of any of this.
Yeah, I'll definitely be trying this over the next few days and provide feedback. And then we'll see, what kind of input we get from others.
Yeah, this is awesome. So
Salman, what is the call to action for developers to do?
All right, you're going to go and visit this link that you'll see up on your screen in a little bit. And the idea really is just to basically click on that, which is going to be the Open LLM Initiative /challenge. And then you're off to the races. Just simply click on the link. It's going to be in the post, LinkedIn post as well. And it's going to be showing up on the screen in a little while. And all you go is click on that link, read a prompt, read a response, and rate it, and you're good to go.
That's it. That. Basically, prompt away, response away, and contribute to the human feedback part of it.
Exactly. Just helping the community build better human-centric applications around large language models.
Sounds great. Awesome. Thank you. And I'll definitely be trying it over the next few days.
I think that's awesome. Thank you for all your contributions.
Yeah. So Salman, you're collecting people's email address. That email address you said is only going to be shared, used for basically sending the survey results. What about the identity of the users who are actually contributing to the data?
Totally anonymous. We're trying not to, capture any personal identifiable information. And the idea really, we don't even capture IP address or anything. We just want you to come try it out, and we will get a representation on aggregate across this uniform distribution that we've created of prompts on what do users feel. So you should be, and of course anyone can validate that looking at the code of what we do, but it's completely anonymized and it's completely private.
Wonderful. Thank you. This is very helpful, and hopefully people will find it useful.